Autumn from Resting Keto Face, and I'm here to give you a recipe today for these mini bundt cakes that are really delicious. You can see the crumb structure is pretty light, and they don't just crumble, they slice really easily. This recipe right here is my new favorite cake recipe, and you could also put blueberries in it or raspberries and make muffins. It's really versatile and it's going to be your new favorite. Stay tuned and we'll get to that recipe in just a second. This is what we want our finished product to look like. It's going to be moist and light and totally done in the middle, and whenever it's done baking you'll be able to just press it and it keeps its form. I also want to give out a special thank you to the people at SugarLike for sending in this product for me to try. I'm going to use it today in this video. If you don't have this or can't access it, you can find it on Amazon. I can't remember the exact price for it, but it's pretty good and the ingredients are really good. It shows on here, which I'll show you again in just a minute, but it shows that the total carbs are 7 grams, but they don't include erythritol and monk fruit to be subtracted from it. So if you look down here, you just see that the only ingredients are erythritol and monk fruit extract, meaning that those 7 carbohydrates are totally subtractable. They're just sugar substitutes, not sugar alcohol. They will not spike your blood sugar and you will not have a glycemic reaction to these. So if you are on keto, this is going to be a great sweetener for you to use, and I think flavor wise this is honestly one of the best ones I've ever had. Sometimes I use these sweeteners and they have like a cooling effect on my tongue, or like there's one specific brand of monk fruit. I just have like my tongue burns from it, and I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but I just don't think that brand is very sweet and it doesn't really do what I want it to do. But this one definitely acts one-to-one like sugar, and I totally recommend this. I did not have to use much in order to get my recipe done. And yeah, I think it's worth it. I'm having a good time with it so far. If you want to see more reviews of products like these, you can go to my Instagram at restingketoface is my user handle, or you can go to my blog at www.restingketoface.com/blog. So to start this recipe, you're going to need some tools and some ingredients. So to start, you're going to need 2 separate bowls and then a whisk for both of those, because we're going to do the wet and dry ingredients separate. I have a mini bundt cake pan, but if you have like a small like bread loaf pan, I'm pretty sure that would work fine. Or you can put it in cupcakes. And I'm going to use the middle one because the sides are just too detailed. You're going to need 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of butter. You're going to need 1 tablespoon of sour cream, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. You're going to need a 1/2 cup almond flour and 2 tablespoons coconut flour, a teaspoon of vanilla, a teaspoon of baking powder. You can use some of these skinny syrups to sweeten it if you want, but I think it might make it a little bit too watery. It's a backup sweetener for sure, and I use these in coffee usually, but they're 0 net carbs and they're artificially sweetened. But we're going to use that new product today, SugarLike. So we're going to see in this video how well it reacts in the oven. And just looking at the back of it, you can see it's non-GMO, tastes like, looks like sugar, use it like sugar. Again, it's got the 7 total carbs, but I think that it's actually 0 net carbs because they don't include a line in here to subtract the erythritol out, even though that's the only real sugar alcohol in there. So I think this is fine, and that's happened to me before. With Russell Silver candies, they didn't list the sugar alcohols, and I just called them and they cleared it up for me. So to start, we're going to use the wet ingredients first in this bowl. Again, I'm kind of sorry about being off center here. So you can see I'm starting with 4 tablespoons of SugarLike and 2 tablespoons of butter, and we're just going to mix that with the 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then I kept checking my ingredients list because I acted like I didn't remember it. But anyways, I have the 1 tablespoon of sour cream, and then I just mixed it all together. And you want to mix it until the sweetener that you're using looks pretty dissolved. The reason I do the wet ingredients like this first is so you can get it a little bit fluffier, and this is what you use to make, like, I can't remember what it's called, if it's like a short base for cookies, but anyways, it's the whole reason you cream the butter and sugar together. So anyways, we just kept mixing this, and then I'm going to set it aside and start doing the dry ingredients. So here I have the coconut flour, and I'm just using this scoop that is 2 tablespoons. That came out of a thing of collagen powder, I think. And then, you know, this isn't a cooking show, so obviously I'm measuring everything real time. But we used 1/2 cup almond flour, and then I added in the teaspoon of baking powder. And then after that, I added in the 1/4 teaspoon of salt. You need the salt with the baking powder to make sure that it has a reaction in the oven so that your cakes rise and they don't just stay dense and suck all the moisture out of it. And from here, we're going to combine the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients just a little bit at a time so we can make sure it combines well. And then when you get done, it's going to be a little clumpy, so we'll add some water to it. And that is going to be totally up to you and how you feel about your oven. I started with 2 tablespoons of water and I just felt like it wasn't enough, so I went ahead and added 1/3. So now I'm just using the silicone spatula to scrape the edges and make sure it's all combined, and then I'm going to get my baking pan and put it on here. If you pause that video, you can see that it has 0 net carbs in pan. I mean, I know it's got some flour in there, but I don't really worry about that. It's residual. That sort of stuff has never really kicked me out of ketosis, so I don't worry about it. And I just divided this evenly between the 2 different little bundt cake sections in here, and it took a little bit of measuring to get it right. But when you're done with it, make sure you wipe off the rings around to protect your pan from getting burnt. And I should have mentioned it before this point, but we want the oven to be at 350. So I preheated that while I was starting to mix the ingredients, and now that the oven is hot, we're going to put this in here. If you forget like me, just wait till the oven heats up because you want the reaction to take place. And while that's cooking, what I like to do is just clean the dishes a little bit. I'll put away any clean dishes we have in the dishwasher or in the dish drainer, and then try to just put away odds and ends around the kitchen, because if you try to get those done all in 1 week, it's just going to waste your time. So try to pick up where you can. I checked the bundt cakes periodically. The first time I took them out of the oven, I didn't think that they were done enough, and I'll show you what I mean by that. They just don't look that browned, and in the center when I push down, they kind of retained that dent that I put in them. So I put them back in the oven and I turned them because the back of my oven's a lot hotter than the front, so I wanted to make sure that it got a good even bake, and I set the timer for some more time. I think I finished out at 18 minutes on these, but again, that's really going to depend on your oven. I would recommend between 13 and 18 minutes for your cakes. If you're doing these as cupcakes, you will probably need less time. I would say 12 to 15 minutes. So here they're done. They're firm in the middle, and we're just going to leave them out on the stove to cool before we turn them out of the bundt cake pan. And here's a close-up of the beautiful bundt cakes. You can kind of see what we're looking for with the browned edges. They're very buttery, and the edges are not sticking because of that flour spray that we used. So when we turn them out of the pan, it's going to be no problem to make sure that they don't stick to the bottom. After we turned them out of the pan, I just wanted to cut them and see what they tasted like, and they were delicious. I really recommend these cakes. You can call them a butter cake or a sour cream cake, or maybe even a pound cake if you want to. And I just think that the cake was really delicate, and it just had a really nice texture, both on the plate and when you eat it. And I really think a lot of that has to do with the sweetener that we used. I think that it did a great job at making sure that it was the right texture. So here's another close-up of what this looks like. Always looking for new recipes to try and products to test for the keto diet, especially if you live in southeastern United States. In the area we live in Alabama, it's not very easy to access these products if you don't buy them on Amazon, and some of them can be very pricey, so people have to review them, and then I give recommendations based on what I like, and then one of these things as an influencer in this area. That's one of my roles, is to help people find those products that are worth buying and worth investing into the keto diet, because I don't want you to waste your money. If I wasted money, then it's wasting my time, and I don't want you to waste your time. So if you think of a keto product that you want me to try, or a recipe that you want me to test out, give me a shout out in the comments below, let me know, and then I'm going to put my other social profiles down there too, so go follow me there. Also, turn on that notification bell, and you will get notifications from